Hello and welcome to the Daily Millwall for Saturday, the 1st of March 2025. Well, today was match day. What a match day. Obviously not the result that we wanted, but what an eventful game. And I'm sure we're not going to hear the end of this for quite some time. This is the match report from millfc.co.uk. 10-man Lions exit Emirates FA Cup. 10-man Millwall bowed out of their Emirates FA Cup on Saturday afternoon with a 3-1 defeat at Crystal Palace. Goalkeeper Liam Roberts was shown a straight red card early on at Selhurst Park before Jafet Tanganga's own goal, and Daniel Munoz's strike put the home side 2-0 up. Wes Harding's goal in the first half stoppage time gave Millwall hope, but despite creating chances after the break, Eddie Nketiah's header sealed the Eagles' place in the quarter-finals. Harding started at right back against the Eagles, with Joe Bryan fit enough to start in SE25. Billy Mitchell partnered Casper Denor in midfield, with Josh Coburn returning to the year 11 in front of an attacking three consisting of Femi Aziz, Luke Cundle and Camille Negley. The first flashpoint came after 8 minutes as Roberts was shown a straight red card for a dangerous challenge on Jean-Philippe Mateta. Lucas Jensen came on in place of Cundle, with Mateta also having to withdraw following a lengthy stoppage. Eddie Nketiah, his replacement. Nketiah's first touch saw him put the ball in the back of the net, but his strike was disallowed for a handball. With a long throw from Harding at the other end, then almost finding Coburn, but the striker could not reach the ball as it bounced into the grasp of Matt Turner. Nketiah's shot on the turn was saved by Jensen at the midway point in the first half, before the Lions had to scramble the ball away from danger as a host of Palace men looked to fire into the back of the net. Holding an extra man advantage, Ben Chilwell was able to ghost into the box at the half-hour mark, but he was met by a smart stop by Jensen before Millwall then dealt another blow as Negley had to withdraw through injury. Rahis Bangor Williams, his replacement. Just a minute later, Palace would take the lead as a cross from Will Hughes was headed into his own net by Tanganga, and that was followed by Nunez's close-range finish on 39 minutes. Despite being originally given as offside, replay showed that the final touch was from a Millwall man. However, 13 minutes into the allotted 13 minutes of first half stoppage time, the Lions were back in it as Harding finished at the back post following a cross into the box. The Lions came out of the traps in the second half, forcing set pieces and throw-ins, a momentary fluster into the Palace penalty area, with half chances following at either end. Joe Bryan's corner kick was claimed by Turner at the hour mark approach before a delightful low cross from Harding almost found Coburn at the back post. Turner scurrying to claim as the home fans began to become restless. Ismaili Sarr blazed over in his last act of the game as a host of substitutions followed. Romain Esse coming onto the pitch in that time with a triple change, seeing George Saville, George Honeyman, Ivanovic come on in place of Mitchell, Denor and Coburn. The Serbian met a Bryan corner with 20 minutes to play, but Turner claimed with 8 minutes to play. However, Palace were able to find a third as Nketiah's header bounced over the line off the post. Adomu Maka was then thrown on as a late substitute, but the Lions could not find a way back into the tie. No attendance. The team was as follows: Roberts, Harding, Tanganga, Cooper, Bryan, Denor, Mitchell, Negley, Cundle, Aziz, Coburn. The substitutes were Jensen, Wallace, Wintle and Maku, Saville, Ivanovic, Bangor, Williams, Honeyman and Sturge. And the substitutions that were made was Honeyman on for Denor in the 65th minute, Saville on for Mitchell in the 65th minute, Bangor Williams on for Negley in the 32nd minute, Jensen on for Cundle in the 12th minute, Imaku on for Aziz in the 84th minute, and Ivanovic on for Coburn in the 65th minute. So, what can you say in terms of, the game? Obviously, as soon as the keeper went off, I mean, it was kind of game over, and you're kind of surprised that it wasn't worse than it ended up being. We actually played quite well, Wes Harding, fantastic, absolutely fantastic, Wes Harding. And you wonder, why is he not playing? Joe Bryan, again, pretty good. Billy Mitchell, not so much. In terms of, obviously, this match report is missing a few key details. Jensen, when he came on, he played extremely well, fantastically well. So much so that you're kind of thinking, well, even though I wanted Roberts to start, I think maybe Jensen should have started, but hey ho. Yeah, I mean, what can you say about the goals? I mean, the cross that was coming in, it was going wide, and there was no one behind. There was no one behind Tanganga, but then again, that's kind of one of the problems with Jensen is the communication. He should be, if he's on the line looking at the whole pitch in front of him, and you should be getting a call saying leave it, leave it, you know what I mean, or some kind of something. Just Tanganga just heads it, and it goes into the net. And then the other one, I mean, where it was played onside, Billy Mitchell goes to clear it, and he just bombs it right, like point blank, blasts it at Tanganga. He goes and he's clearing it sideways. So again, sideways Billy, he would have just kicked it out for a throw in, maybe even a corner. Like he might have spun backwards. I mean, Jesus Christ, what are you doing? What are you doing? Yeah. Again, Harding, Coburn. Harding played a really good ball in for Coburn to run onto, and he just kind of stretched it and missed it. It just wasn't to be. It just wasn't to be. Could have been, but it wasn't to be. And you would think, well, like, if we actually had the players on 11 versus 11, how would you have done? But then, we kind of, because of the circumstances, we can kind of say, oh, yeah, we did lose the game, but it wasn't a fair fight because it wasn't 11 versus 11. Not only that, but Negley, they say he went off, but they don't tell you that, he caught his studs in their crappy pitch that apparently they didn't water before the game, and he turned his ankle. We'll get more on that in a minute, because obviously we get to the fun and games in terms of what happened tangentially related to the actual football game. But before we do that, let's have a look at some pictures. Emirates FA Cup match action. Millwall exit the Emirates FA Cup at the 5th round stage on Saturday afternoon. Take a look at the selection of the action from Selhurst Park below. Where's Harding? I don't understand. How is he not playing? See, I think defensively there were a few moments, but maybe I don't know. It's very weird situation. I don't know what's going on. Maybe there's some kind of because then they were maybe there's some kind of contract thing where if he plays a certain number of minutes or games, then a bonus kicks in. They don't want to pay it, so but then they're playing him, so that wouldn't really matter, would it? So yeah, Ivanovic, and when Ivanovic came on, it was very good in terms of getting on the ball and twisting and turning, which he hasn't been doing very well lately. So he was well up for it when he came on, which is good to see. But I would say for their third goal, Jules Saville ball watching and then not jumping up properly with Nicotia. I mean, bruh, you gotta do what you gotta do, mate. You know that. You've been around the block. You gotta do better than that. Because we were, we did have our moments. We were like a set piece away from equalising. It was just a matter of time, and then once that third goal goes in, it's like, okay, good night, Vienna. So the sending off has created some kind of alternative timeline in the reality of the mentally unstable people that exist in the world. Apparently, Liam Roberts should be sent to jail. He should go to prison. He should get a 10-game ban, 5-game ban, 8-game ban. All of this stuff, he did it on purpose. All kinds of rubbish, which was fueled by the bizarre circumstances of. Now, I didn't know about this because here's the thing. You have a button on your television. Obviously, I wasn't at the game. I watched it on TV. You don't have to watch the shit that they put in front of you in terms of the people that they have to talk about the football game before the game and at half time. You don't have to listen to them. You don't have to watch it. So I don't. I go off to YouTube. I find a 10-15 minute video. I watch that. And then I come back for the second half. I'm not interested in what these fucking idiots have to say. So I don't listen to it. I've stopped listening to it. Especially since they started pushing these former women footballers who are all lesbians to talk about men's football when they have no idea they have nothing to say that I want to hear about men's football. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. So what I think has happened, because watching the game, obviously we had a 60-minute first half with all the delays. We had 13 minutes of injury time. While we were waiting, obviously, if you didn't, have I mentioned it yet? Liam Roberts, the reason why he got a red card is because he kicked the guy in the face outside the area. He came out for a ball that was outside the area. Obviously, didn't want to head it because, don't do that because you could get injured. You can't use your hands. So what do? You use your feet. And he went up. He got the ball first, and then the follow through ended up smashing into the player. But then the referee was right there, and he saw it, and he didn't even give nothing for it. He didn't blow up. Apparently he gave a yellow card because they said on the thing that the card has been upgraded. Well, I didn't even notice and see that he gave it the yellow card. So I don't know. I didn't see when that happened. Maybe it was when all the Palace players were moaning and complaining. But we didn't see it. So obviously he's receiving treatment, and while he's receiving treatment on the pitch, this Mateta, they're showing the chairman in the stands. He's walking down the stairs with a cup of coffee in a paper cup. And he's talking to other people, explaining, what's going on. And they're showing it on the television. So I imagine what's happened is that the BBC have gone to him and said, look, can we speak to you at half time? Because they probably wanted to hear what he said to those other people while they had the cameras on him, and they wanted that public. So yeah, he gave, bizarrely, the Crystal Palace chairman gave an interview to the BBC at half time about the injury, and he'd gone into this absolutely disgusting rant about how it's the worst thing ever, well, we'll go through, get the quotes. I'm not going to paraphrase the quotes when we got the quotes here. So this is from The Standard, which used to be the Evening Standard. Crystal Palace, semicolon. Furious Steve Parish gives Jean-Philippe Mateta update as he slams Millwall goalkeeper. Palace chairman suggested Liam Roberts had endangered Mateta's life with the high challenge. So you can see there, look, that's what happened. That's what happened there. Lovely stuff. Steve Parish furiously hit out at Millwall goalkeeper Liam Roberts for a challenge that left Jean-Philippe Mateta in hospital. The FA Cup match between Crystal Palace and Millwall at Selhurst Park was delayed for almost 7 minutes, so it was longer than that. As Mateta received treatment in the first half, Roberts charged off his line and clattered into the striker's face with his left boot. Let's check the picture. Was it his left boot? Yeah, it was. Don't believe what they write. Always check for yourself. Roberts was sent off after a VAR review. I told you, we all knew it was coming then, that we'll be sawn off by VAR, but I mean, to be honest, I'm surprised that he didn't get sent off for that by the ref seeing it, but I mean, you can't complain about that, can you? I mean, come on. And Mateta required oxygen before he was then stretchered off and replaced by Eddie Nketiah. Speaking at half-time, who was he speaking to? BBC. Palace chairman Parish confirmed that Mateta had been taken straight to hospital, and he slammed Roberts for what he felt was a reckless act that endangered the life of the Eagles striker. So far, what we know is that he's got a bad gash behind his ear and a head injury, Paris told BBC Sport when asked for an update on Mateta. Obviously, he's at the hospital. We hope for the best. You know, there's a lot of emotion in football, but we need to talk about that challenge. In all the time I've watched football, I've never seen a challenge like it. I looked to see how old the keeper was, and he's 30 years old. That is the most reckless challenge on a football pitch I think I've ever seen. He needs to have a long hard look at himself, that lad, because he's endangering a fellow professional, maybe even his life, with a challenge like that. It's very difficult for me to talk about the rest of the game because we're worried about JP, and it's just terrible challenge. Asked about the response of the Palace players to seeing their teammate carried off as they took a 2-1 lead into half-time, Parish again struggled to contain his anger. Oh, they're all professionals out there. They've got to treat each other like professionals and have a duty of care to their fellow professionals. That goalkeeper hasn't had one. No credit to the players for carrying on, but it's difficult for me to think about anything else at the moment, you know, with JP in hospital. In all the time I've watched football, you know, somebody mentioned, you know, there was one in the World Cup in 1982 like that. You know, it's a dreadful challenge. And why the referee needed to go to the screen, I've got no idea. Mateta has scored 12 times in the Premier League this season and is on a run of 8 goals in 9 appearances, but Parish insisted the Frenchman's significance to the Palace team was not the reason for his emotion. Oh, he's a human being, let's forget about a football player, Parish said. Oh, that's not a normal challenge. Now, if you're kicking somebody in the head with full force, then God knows what damage he's done to him. So that's what he said on national television, around the world as well, by that. Probably, I don't know if they carried a BBC feed around the world. That was the carried on national television. They went to they asked the chairman of the opposing team for an interview. Why? What's that? But what you've got to realise is that this is the BBC, that if you didn't know, recently they aired a documentary about Gaza and Hamas, and they used people in it. They paid them to be in it, and they were literally part of Hamas. The kid that they used to narrate it was literally the son of a Hamas terrorist, and they paid him to be in it. So they literally funded terrorism, which, you know, is illegal because Hamas is a proscribed terrorist organisation in this country. But hey ho, it's the BBC. You know, they covered up paedophiles for many, many years, so their crimes, they don't get investigated or anything like that. You know, they're allowed to get away with it. So let's move on to some South London Press. LondonNewsOnline.co.uk. Jean-Philippe Mateta needed 25 stitches after Millwall keeper tackle in Crystal Palace's FA Cup when 25. I heard it was 33. So they can't even get their story straight. What's going on here then? So Crystal Palace have confirmed that Jean-Philippe Mateta has been discharged from hospital after being stretchered off in their 3-1 FA Cup winner over South London rivals Millwall on Saturday. The French striker was brought down by Liam Roberts after 6 minutes. with Mike Oliver sending off the Lions keeper after watching VAR replays. Mateta was down and required treatment for over 10 minutes. He was given oxygen before being carried off the Selhurst Park pitch. What they're trying to conflate it, because obviously if you didn't see it, you would think, oh, oxygen, that's like CPR, like he couldn't breathe. No, it's a pain thing. If you're in pain, they give you oxygen. Because you might be going to shock, you might like hyperventilate, stuff like that. It's not anything that, he was knocked out and he couldn't breathe. It's not CPR. So that's not that I'm digging out the South London Press. Is actually pretty fair how they've written this. So pretty, obviously they cover Crystal Palace and Millwall, so they have to play it down the line. They can't piss one side off or piss the other side off. They have to be pretty balanced about what they write, unlike most of the rubbish press in this country. And then they've got the quote from the Palace chairman. Palace chairman Steve Parish slammed the tackle as one of the worst he's seen during half-time on BBC. The Eagles wrote on their website, we are pleased to confirm that JP Mateta has this evening been discharged from St George's Hospital, where he received specialist treatment and 25 stitches to a severe laceration to his left ear. All scans are clear and JP is feeling well. Yeah, it wasn't a brain injury, it wasn't an head injury. He had a cut on his face from getting a stud in his face. He will now rest and recuperate over the following days, where his progress will be monitored by our club doctor. Thank you to the medical staff at both Selhurst Park and the hospital for their help and professionalism, and for all the wishes of support that JP and the club have received today. So there you go. Now, there you go. Look at that. There's the ref there. You can see the ref. And he's seeing it. Look, he's seen that. And he didn't even give a free kick for that. And I now understand why all the people moan about the referees in the Premier League. I think they've probably given up. I think they've given up now because they've got the VAR that's just interfering in them. You might as well just let the VAR run the game, and then the person on the pitch, they just blow the whistle and tell the players what the VAR is telling them to do. You might have it the other way, where the senior referee is actually the VAR, and the one on the pitch is just a dog's body who's doing what they tell him to do. Because why would they've kind of like, well, why am I doing this? Why am I going to try and do my job properly when someone's going to tell me that I'm doing it wrong? But again, here we go from LondonNewsOnline.co.uk, the South London Press. Mill boss Alex Neil defends keeper Liam Roberts and completely disagrees with Palace chairman Parish's comments. Mill head coach Alex Neil has defended Liam Roberts for his red card in today's 3-1 FA Cup loss to Crystal Palace, and also disagreed with the comments of Eagles chairman Steve Parish. The Lions had the worst start possible, with Roberts dismissed in the 8th minute. Well, 6 minutes ago. Well, I think the tackle was on 6 minutes. He got sent off in the 8th minute. The summer signing, who has started in the cup competitions instead of first choice Lucas Jensen, was sent off for a high challenge on Jean-Philippe Mateta as he tried to clear the danger outside of his box. Initially, referee Michael Oliver: never trust a person who has two first names as a name. Don't tell me how I know that, but Michael Oliver. Let play continue, but VAR was brought into play. The official went over to review the incident and showed Roberts a straight red card. Parish could be seen imitating the Roberts challenge in the stands, this is what I was saying, while Mateta had lengthy treatment on the pitch before being stretched off. He then did a half-time interview with BBC, televising the tie, saying it was the most reckless challenge he had ever seen. Again, whose idea was that? I'm guessing it was BBC. They went, can we talk to you at half-time about the incident? I'm imagining that was the situation. So the BBC pushing this narrative, trying to attack Millwall Football Club, as we know they will, as we know they will. Alex Neil, asked about his comments, said, Liam's come out and straight to get the ball, mistimed it and caught the lad, it's no more than that, in my perspective. There was no motive, I completely disagree with that, he's certainly not intended to hurt the player or anything like that. We wish Mateta all the best, and hope he gets back on the pitch. And I don't know how bad it is or it isn't, but I'll be honest. At the time, I thought he might actually make contact with the ball, but I haven't seen it back. He did. Listener, reader, indeed he did. The fact is, if he's caught him, then he deserved it to be a sending off, but it's certainly no more than that. And I don't look at he's gone out intending to hurt the player. It's 5 minutes into the game. Neil took off Luke Cundall with Lucas Jensen coming on to replace Roberts, who had kept 3 clean sheets in his most recent appearances for the South Londoners. Palace went ahead on 33 minutes when Japhet Tanganga headed Will User's cross into his own net, and Daniel Muniz slammed in a second before the interval. The Colombian was in an offside position, but the ball came to him off a Millwall player. Billy Mitchell's attempted clearance rebounding off Tanganga. That makes Tanganga look bad, but Billy Mitchell, what the fuck were you doing? The Lions cut the deficit with seconds left to play in the first half. Femi Aziz did excellently to break into the left of the box, and although Palace keeper Matt Turner pushed out his low cross, Wes Harding's follow-up clipped off Ben Chilwell onto the way into the net. Yeah, like Wes Harding, man, come on. How is Wes Harding not playing, bruv? How is he not playing? Man, to do that, like to come in months out into the cold, come in against Leeds, play blinding, and to come in today, again, play blinding, score a goal. I mean, man, he must have the patience of a saint. The fact that he ain't playing and he can still turn up and turn in a performance like that. Mill had some dead ball moments at the start of the second period, but were unable to make them count before Eddie Nketiah killed off the contest. Ebi Eze's 81st minute free kick was nodded on by Chris Richards, and Nketiah producing a looping header over Jensen. Neil said, you're not coming here, from a championship perspective and how good Crystal Palace have been. That with 11 men, it was going to be difficult. Certainly when you go down to 10 men after 5 minutes, then the task becomes extremely hard at that point. Crystal Palace are a good side. It's difficult to break them down or get any foothold in the game, particularly when they've got spare players on the pitch. And they were really aggressive and had a goal disallowed early doors, and it looked quite early and after 15 or 20 minutes for us. The nature of the goals is probably the biggest frustration for us. One is an own goal, where we head it into our own net. The second, we don't get the clearance right, it lands for their player and he just taps it in. The third one, we lose 2 headers in our box from a set play, and that's probably my biggest frustration. That if there was a moment of quality or something special from Crystal Palace player, and then they earned the right to get the goal, but the goals were a little bit cheap from our perspective. Indeed, they were. We gave ourselves a little bit of a lifeline before half time. Naturally, we didn't have much of the game. We put the ball forward and worked around it, and I was hoping you'd see us play a bit more football than we could because of how the game panned out. The lads never gave up, they keep going, they're grinding and making it difficult, and half time helped us. We changed our shape and we went back to a back 5, which made it a little bit more difficult for Crystal Palace. And the problem I had in the first half was trying to get that information on how loud it was, and that we'd prepped a 4 all week, and the last thing I wanted to do was change it that quickly. No complaints, really. Palace deserved to win that game. We were struggling after the sending off, so obviously Palace were kind of coming down the wings and kind of whipping balls in when we were struggling with that, and obviously they went to a back 5, as he said, and that kind of sorted that out. So, the fallout. Obviously, you have a game, you have an incident. In a normal game with normal clubs, so, that's bad. Anyway, let me watch Emmerdale, let me watch Coronation Street, let's move on with my life. But when it's Millwall, oh my fucking god, it's the end of the world, isn't it? It's the end of the world. And, here we go. So, obviously, we're going to have an FA investigation. We can't not have an FA investigation. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh my god, this is really bad. This is from FootballInsider247.com. Apparently, so the chanting as well. Crystal Palace to push FA over shock Mateta and Chilwell news versus Millwall. Key Fackett. has slammed a ridiculous decision after Chancellor aimed at Crystal Palace stars Jean-Philippe Mateta and Ben Chilwell. The former Pigmol chief and ex-FIFA official exclusively told Football Insider he hoped the Eagles will challenge the FA on their decision not to sanction Millwall fans after the chants of "let him die" were aimed at the French striker. You know that "let him die, let him die, let him die." You know that one? The one that's been going ad infinitum for many, many years, that any time any player goes down, especially, when they're rolling around and it looks like they're faking it. Obviously, Mateta wasn't faking it, but that chant that's ubiquitous in football. It's normal. It exists everywhere, but, oh my God, Millwall did it. Can't have that. You can't have that. So that needs to be investigated. We need to be, brought to heel about that. Mateta was floored by a reckless challenge from Leo Roberts in the 8th minute, with the former Mainz striker being taken to hospital for treatment. Referee Michael Oliver was criticised for his failure to initially send off Roberts and only showed the English goalkeeper a red card after an intervention from VAR. Following the injury to the talismanic striker, Palace bounced back to Anley dispatch off Millwall 3-1 and progressed through to the next round of the FA Cup. But following the heinous chants aimed at Man United target Mateta, Chilwell was also the target of some vitriolic comments from Millwall fans. Well, here's the thing, so the chants are heinous. When they aimed the "let him die" chant, that's a heinous chant. So when Crystal Palace did it, when Negley went down injured, when he turned his ankle on their shit fucking pitch that they didn't fucking water, they chanted "let him die." So, no, you're not mentioning that? You're not mentioning that? Well, obviously we know why they're not mentioning that. Because we're Millwall and they're not. And all of this nonsense is just theatre to attack Millwall. It's a vector to attack Millwall. It is what it is. So, here we go. The Lions' travelling fan base took a beat from watching their side be comfortably beaten, by their London rivals. Well, it wasn't comfortably beaten, to chant "Chelsea Rent Boy" at the England International on loan from the Blues. And I think the club did get in trouble for that. Was it Conor Gallagher? Some teams chanted that Conor Gallagher and got in trouble for that, and they got a fine because I thought we were sex worker positive in this day and age. So yeah, Kieran Gill, whoever that is, I think he's some cunt at the Daily Mail. Yep. Currently at Selhurst Park told the FA will be investigating the Chelsea Rent Boy chants from Millwall fans which have been directed at Ben Chilwell here. However, the "let him die" chant aimed at Jean-Philippe Mateta will not be probed as it does not breach regulations. So again, not mentioning the fact that Crystal Palace chanted the same thing at Negley when it's on the floor, and it's a common chant that people chant when players are down injured, and it's taken a long time. That's going back before you were born, probably. Don't know how old this cunt is, but before you were fucking born, people were doing this. So maybe you should shut the fuck up. The Daily Mail's Kieran Gill reported from Selhurst Park what I've just told you. Speaking exclusively to Football Insider, ex-Pigmol chief Hackett gave his expert insight on the decision by the FA and was highly critical, saying that borders on the ridiculous, and I have hope Crystal Palace will take up the issue with them. Yeah, you may not know this. Obviously, at every FA Cup tie, I believe there's some kind of like FA official who kind of talks to both clubs, who's like separate from the referees and stuff. Is some geezer in a blazer, FA Cup blazer, who's kind of, I don't know, in charge of the game or something. But yeah. Crystal Palace overcame brutal injuries and blah blah blah. Then they actually talk about the game at the end of the story. Wow, fantastic stuff. Now, what have we got here? So we've got some talking about the Alex Neil post match, which might be we may have already heard some of this. Southernnews.co.uk, Mill boss reveals his biggest frustration, which I think is going to talk about the fact we gifted the goals to them, which we just heard. With Crystal Palace FA Cup loss, and sheds light on half-time tactical switch. We'll read it and we'll stop if we've heard it before. Alex Neil expressed frustration with the goals his side conceded in the 3-1 loss to Crystal Palace in the FA Cup 5th round earlier today. The lines were reduced. Yeah, we know all that stuff. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, Alex Neil said, coming here from a championship perspective, particularly with how good form Crystal Palace have been in, with 11 men in, the game was going to be difficult, but certainly when you go down to 10 men after 5 minutes, the task obviously becomes extremely hard at that point. Crystal Palace are a good side. It's difficult to break them down. It's difficult to get any foothold in the game, especially when they got spare players on the pitch. And I thought they looked really sort of aggressive and got a goal disallowed early doors, and it looked quite wrong for us after 10 to 15 minutes. And I think the nature of the goals is probably my biggest frustration for us. One of them is an own goal, where we head it into our own net. The second one, we don't get the clearance right, and it lands to their player who taps it in. And then the third one, we lose 2 headers in our box from a set play. So that's probably my biggest frustration, is the fact that it was a moment of quality. It was something a little bit special from Crystal Palace player, and then they earned the right to get that goal. I just thought the goal was a little bit cheap from our perspective. And then he talks about, obviously, the 5 working the ball around, blah, blah. The players never gave up. Palace did deserve to win the game. Millwall started the second half brightly and a few chances to equalise, mostly from set pieces. It wasn't because we popped the ball around them or anything like that. We put the ball into space, we played into their half of the pitch, and we try and bombard their box and try and land on something. If we can force a goal, it's game on at that point. The team talk at half-time was, we'll change our shape and we're going to make sure we're a solid back 5 and they don't go round the sides as easily. That's what I was saying. They were coming down our wings very easily. They need to play through the middle of us, which, they struggle to do. And then if we can go up the pitch trying to sustain the ball up there, throw-ins, corners, free kicks, set plays, crosses into the box, land on the next one, recycle it, put it back in and see if we can get on the end or something. And naturally, it just makes them a little bit nervous because, they're so much in control of the game. But we do have those little moments that might land to us and we might get that next goal. If I'm being honest, I think that's the best we can hope for when we've got 10 men. So it gave us an opportunity. And then, the third goal, it takes the game away from us, unfortunately. It was a cheap goal because it's a set play. Exactly, that's exactly what I said, Once that goal was, we were having bits and pieces and we were kind of dangerous without being dangerous. Obviously Wes Harding goal came out of nothing. Like, wow, fantastic. Where did that come from? We're going half time 2-1. Wow, fantastic. There's only a goal in it. Second half we come out, we play a lot better. But then that third goal goes in and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake. I thought we very real possibility that this could have been 2-2 and we could have went to extra time with this, but striker Josh Coburn made his first start since November and was a useful focal point, with Millwall playing more directly as they pursued an equaliser. We weren't intending on using Josh the way we did. We weren't intending on being direct as we were, but it's just the nature of the game at that point. I've watched a lot of Crystal Palace. I've watched 5 games of them before we played them today, and the stats suggested they're in top 4 in the Premier League for transitions. So if you try and play against them and open up the pitch, they're one of the best teams in the league for nicking the ball and damaging you. The thing this guy has to do, he watched 5 games of Crystal Palace. My goodness. Poor lad. Poor lad. With 11 men, we had moments where we're going to try and play and work ourselves up the pitch, and we had patterns that we've done, and they've got taken away after 5 minutes. So if I was trying to do that with 10 men, in my opinion, I would have basically just handed the game to Crystal Palace and said, go and score 4 to 5 goals because we would have been too open. So that changed the way we had to go about it, and we were much more direct. It wasn't a feast for the eyes in any way, shape or form. I'm fully aware of that, but my job's to try and give my team the best chance of staying in the game. Indeed. And we did stay in the game. We did. And then we got this, again from LondonNewsOnline.co.uk. South London Press, I think it might be the same kind of thing. Yeah, it's the same thing about handing the game to Palace. We could have lost 4 or 5 if we were to. Yeah, it's the same quote. So there you go. Now, that's done and dusted. We've got to move on now. We've got a game on Tuesday, and we have some problems to address. And it seems, obviously, every time you play a game, you lose 2 players. Negley's injured. How badly is it? We're about to find out. Obviously, Roberts is suspended, but obviously, hopefully you don't need him because he was just on the bench, sitting on the bench. So, obviously, we did have a third choice goalkeeper that we literally just let go and moved to MK Dons. So now we face the prospect of however many games it's going to be, whether it's 3 games, maybe more, of having to have a under 21 goalkeeper on the bench for the championship games. And let's hope Jensen doesn't get injured, because that will be a bit rough. So let's find out what's going on from the southernnews.co.uk. Mill winger to be assessed after limping off early in 3-1 FA Cup loss to Crystal Palace. Camille Negley is going to be assessed after he limped off in the 33rd minute of Mill's 3-1 loss to Crystal Palace in the FA Cup 5th round. Yeah, we know about that. We know how the game went. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. Well, it's difficult to see. He came off in the game. I think you could see when he went back on the pitch, he wasn't moving freely at all. And we have to admit the change. Mill boss Alex Neil said, the key moments in the game, they didn't go in our favour, did they? We lose a man, we scored an own goal, we hit the ball off our player and it ends up in the back of the net. We lose another key player. It wasn't great from our perspective, but Camille at the moment, we'll assess him and we'll see where he is. So it's clearly too soon. He turned his ankle, but he tried to carry on. He went a few minutes, but it was obvious he couldn't run properly, so you'll imagine he'll miss at least Tuesday and then maybe next week as well. But we have RBW back. RBW came back into the squad from his injury a couple of weeks ago, so there you go. Now, obviously, while we were having our fun times in SE25, there were other games going on in the championship, so let's have a look at that before we finish the video. So on Friday, obviously, Sheffield Wednesday 1, Sunderland 2, and today Leeds 1, West Bromwich Albion 1, Blackburn 1, Norwich 1, Oxford 2, Coventry 3, Stoke 0, Watford 0, Queen's Park Rangers 1, Sheffield United 2, Middlesbrough 1, Derby County 0, Luton 1, Portsmouth 0. So a lot of these results have gone our way, sort of, basically. I would say, apart from obviously Coventry winning and Middlesbrough winning, but QPR lost, Watford drew, Norwich drew, Blackburn drew, and West Brom drew. So this is how it looks in the table. So the only teams above us who won, Middlesbrough, who've figured out how to win again. They won their last 2 games, which means they start climbing up the table now. And Coventry, that have just been winning and winning and winning and winning and winning. Apart from that defeat there to Leeds. But when you win games rather than draw them, obviously it's now Frank Lampard's Coventry, and this is probably why they brought him in to do this. Obviously he gets a lot of stick, but in terms of he knows what he's doing. Obviously, you've got Joe Edwards with him now. They have now jumped into 5th spot. They're in the playoffs, but West Brom, obviously, they are still clinging on. They will not give up that 6th position. They are still there with another draw. 16 draws in the season. Insane. They have won 12 games, lost 7, so that's 19. They have won and lost 19 games. They have drawn 16, nearly as many as they have won and lost. What the hell is going on there? But again, they are still there. Blackburn are the ones who dropped down. Middlesbrough are coming on the late charge. So, obviously, all of these teams have played 35. Burnley, rather funnily, they lost to Preston in the FA Cup today. So, jolly old Preston are going on an FA Cup run. Good for them, And Burnley now return to the league. There's 11 games left for all of those on 35, 12 for those on 34. We got a game in hand. Unfortunately, it's against Bristol City, who are here. So, if we do win on Tuesday, we get 48 points, and we don't really go anywhere. We just jump back up and catch up to Norwich, who drew today. But that will deny Bristol City, getting any more points. They'll stay on 49. So we will jump up to 48 and they will stay on 49. So that obviously helps us going forward. But man, I mean, is it still believable? I don't know. Obviously, it's a long shot, isn't it? It is there, but it's not. It's not within reach. It's kind of like over the horizon. It's not like we can reach out and grab it. It's just over there. We've got to go and get it. We've got to walk over there and go and get it. But it's not beyond the realms. But I think realistically, we just need 2 more wins, and we get to that 51 point mark, and we'll be guaranteed in another season, next season in this division. And then, as Steve Gallen promised, they can start talking about the players who are out of contract and start figuring out what they're going to do. So yeah, there you go. That's what happened in the Championship today. And on that note, thank you for watching, and goodbye.